We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her. We want to hear from you, and we are ready to listen.
Today, the FBI announcing a $50,000 reward in this case.
The Pima County Sheriff's Office also laying out a timeline of the hours before Nancy Guthrie was first reported missing. We have team coverage lined up. Gabriella Becerra has more on that timeline, and Sean Rice has details on a fake ransom arrest.
But first, let's start with Troy Hayden, who is live outside of Nancy Guthrie's house where this kidnapping happened. And Troy, investigators say that the reported ransom note had a deadline of 5 p.m. What more do we know about this?
Yeah, I mean, and just think about that, Caribe Mark. Think about what that Guthrie family is going through, knowing they have now less than an hour until that deadline hits. There are actually two deadlines on that ransom note. One is today at 5 p.m., the other on Monday. We don't know the exact time. But again, bottom line, still no Nancy Guthrie, still no suspects, and that deadline. So we are here in Nancy's neighborhood, and I kind of want to set the scene for you if I can. To me, it looks a lot like some neighborhoods in Scottsdale where there's a lot of desert, open desert, no street lights, big front yards that are basically desert landscapes. So you can see how a crime like this could happen without a lot of witnesses here. So we were at the news conference with the Pima County Sheriff earlier today. We'll show you some video of that and go through some of the things we learned. The sheriff said that blood found on Nancy's porch was confirmed to be hers by DNA testing. There was no sign of forced entry at the home, as has been reported. There are no suspects or persons of interest at this time, but the sheriff also said nobody has yet been ruled out. The 3 ransom notes sent to 2 local media and to TMZ are all the same note, and they all had that 5 p.m. deadline and also another deadline on Monday. And the sheriff says the Ring cameras at Nancy's home did not record or upload any video because she didn't have a Ring subscription. If you know how Ring works, you can have a Ring camera that'll show you live video, but in order for you to record the video, you have to have a subscription. The sheriff also said there was no smashed camera. Here's what he said.
The doorbell camera, it was removed, we know that, but we're not confirming that any cameras were smashed or destroyed around the house. I don't know where that came from, but that's something we're not confirming.
We are actively reviewing and analyzing information from all digital sources, which includes banks, social media companies, phone companies, and any other organizations where a digital footprint could have been captured. All this information provides data points and helps put the picture together.
Yeah, and just think about the digital footprint that we all leave. Like you're saying, banking, social media, cell phones, and also, Caribe, you mentioned that $50,000 reward. The original reward was only $2,500. So back out live here, again, you can see we have a host of media out in front of the home from all over the country, all hoping for Nancy's safe return and a good outcome to this, but we just didn't get a whole lot of new information and certainly no answers as to where Nancy is. Caribe, Mark.
Well, Troy, you know, obviously someone might be looking for money. That $50,000 reward may be enough to entice someone to come forward. So hopefully we see something like that happen soon.
And Troy, maybe they addressed this, maybe they didn't. The ransom note that we're now talking about with a 5 o'clock deadline, have the Pima County Sheriff's officials that run, I guess it's the sheriff himself that runs this press conference you were at, or the FBI addressed the legitimacy of that ransom note? Because we know, and we're going to have a story on it in a second, there was a fake ransom note.
Yeah, they seem to be working, from what I could gather, that they are taking this note seriously because it contained a few things in there that nobody else knew. So at this point, they're using it and thinking it may be legitimate. But the one thing to think about is, if you were a serious kidnapper and you had this 5 o'clock deadline, why wouldn't you have reached out somehow to the Guthrie family at this point? So it's a big question, and still a lot of unanswered ones, Mark.
Yeah, a ton. And boy, what a nightmare for this family. Troy, thanks. We'll get back to you.
Our team coverage continues with Gabriella Becerra. And Gabby, what can you tell us about the timeline that the sheriff's office just released?
Well, Caribe, it appears that Nancy was taken from her home in the very early hours on Sunday morning. The sheriff won't confirm or deny if there was any forced entry inside the home, but he is now telling us that the blood found on her doorstep did in fact belong to Nancy. Nancy Guthrie left her Catalina Foothills home in an Uber at 5:32 p.m. on Saturday evening to have dinner at her daughter Annie's house about 10 minutes away. A family member drove Nancy home about 4 hours later. The sheriff wouldn't say if the family member was her daughter, son-in-law, or someone else. Detectives know Nancy arrived at home at 9:48 p.m., according to data recorded of her garage door opening. It closed just a few minutes later. At 1:47 a.m. on Sunday morning, Nancy's doorbell camera was disconnected. The camera was removed from the wall, and it's still missing. The surveillance software on Nancy's cameras detected a person at 2:12 a.m., but there's no saved video of the incident because she didn't pay for the subscription that stores recordings. The tech company reportedly told the sheriff's office they tried everything they could, but there's no way to get that video back. At 2:28 a.m., Nancy's pacemaker disconnected from her phone. Her phone, wallet, and keys were found inside her house. Family arrived at the home about 9 hours later at 11:56 a.m. when friends were concerned Nancy didn't show for church. 7 minutes later, they called 911. And as far as Nancy's house being reopened as a crime scene yesterday, the sheriff addressed that, saying that it initially was just his detectives who processed the scene, but yesterday the FBI asked if they could also take a look at it. The sheriff is also staying tight-lipped on what evidence they may have found inside the home, and he said that is to protect the integrity of the investigation. Live in Tucson, Gabriela Becerra, 12 News.
Gabby, I know in situations like this, there's always a timeline, and that timeline, unfortunately, goes down for the victim when they disappear. Did they talk? I mean, it's been, since Saturday night that she disappeared. Have they talked about that dwindling window that would be available to, I mean, the odds go down with every passing hour?
It seems that the sheriff's office and investigators are staying hopeful that Nancy will be found alive. But again, there is that emphasis on her health conditions. And so they are just trying to work as fast as they can to find her.
All right. Gabriela Becerra live in Tucson as our coverage continues. And here's another aspect of it, and we talked about it a second ago with Troy. A California man has been arrested for faking a ransom demand for Nancy Guthrie. Prosecutors here in Arizona have charged him with 2 felonies.
12 News journalist Sean Rice obtained the court records. And Sean, what have you learned?
Yeah, Mark and Caribe, the FBI announced this morning that Derek Kulela of Los Angeles, California, was arrested this morning for sending a text to Nancy Guthrie's family members claiming to be the person that sent a potential legitimate ransom demand in her disappearance. Officials made it very clear this morning that this man is not connected to that potentially very legitimate ransom demand. Now, Kulela is said to have used a cyber website to obtain phone numbers for Nancy Guthrie's daughter, Annie, and her son-in-law, Tommaso. Court records say he texted them, quote, "Did you guys get the Bitcoin? Quote, waiting on our end for the transaction." The FBI was notified and found the text messages were sent from an IP address connected to Kulela in Southern California. In an interview, he admitted to sending the messages and said he had been following this case closely, watching extensively on television. Today, the FBI in charge of the Phoenix division, Heath Yonke, he's with the FBI, and he issued some very pointed words to potential copycats, just like Derek.
My next message is to those imposters who are trying to take advantage and profit from this situation. We will investigate and ensure you are held accountable for your actions.
And those court records in federal court detail that these text messages came in just minutes after the Guthrie family posted a video online, speaking directly to the people who may have taken Nancy Guthrie, asking to speak with them and hear what their demands may be. Receiving fraudulent text messages like the ones that Kulela allegedly sent hinder the investigation and, of course, cause just undue emotional harm to her family members. Mark.
All right, Sean. As if you could get any lower.
I know.
Trying to prey upon people who are dealing with the worst possible scenario.
Absolutely.
Thanks. All right, let's take a legal deep dive into the case. Joining us now, once again, criminal defense attorney Josh Colesrud. Good to see you. So this case in California, that Sean just reported on. How much trouble could this guy be in?
Oh, he's in a lot of trouble. And the U.S. Attorney's Office takes these crimes very seriously. And I'm really happy with what the U.S. Attorney did in this case, because this isn't a fake ransom note to the family. You know, they don't know that it's fake, and it's harassment. So what he's charged with 2 different counts. One for interstate ransom note, which is up to 20 years in prison if he's found guilty. Also, he's charged with another count of interstate harassment. That also carries with it up to 2 years in prison. And what this does, though, is it sends a message to other people that may be inclined to harass the family not to do so, because you're going to be charged with a federal offense. I mean, this guy, he woke up in the morning safe in bed, and he sends 2 text messages out, and now he's facing 20 years in prison.
Yeah, let's talk about the kidnapping itself. And there are 2 possible scenarios. One is a really good outcome. They pay something or this person is caught, but at the end of the day, they get their mother back alive. The other is not a good outcome.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just kidnapping, and the kidnapper is caught, what could that person face?
Well, right now, it's hard to say, because the grandmother is elderly, and that carries with it additional aggravating factors and crimes that wouldn't be charged if she was younger. So you're talking about elderly abuse, you're talking about kidnapping, attempted murder, burglary in the first degree, certainly life sentences across the board.
And if she dies in the process of either being returned or has already died or been murdered, is death penalty on the table?
Death penalty is on the table. And you have to kind of look at the history of the Pima County Attorney's Office and ask yourselves, are they ready and capable of enforcing the death penalty? Because they're not as trigger happy, so to speak, as Maricopa County is, but it certainly has the aggravating factors that are required to make it a capital offense.
How does this compare to other recent high-profile cases that we've seen?
So it is similar to the Brian Kohberger case, if you recall.
Killed the people in Idaho.
Yep, and if you recall, one of the victims was was a girl that was from Arizona. But anyway, in that case, law enforcement was also very quiet about what they knew at the time that the crimes were committed, because they didn't want the defendant in that case to know exactly what they were looking for, so he wouldn't destroy evidence. So, for example, they didn't immediately say that they were looking for a white 4-door vehicle, because they didn't want the defendant to ditch that, or they didn't want the defendant to ditch a glove that he may have had at the crime scene. So here they're very close-lipped. I actually like that the Pima County Sheriff's Office has been very tight-lipped about what was going on.
All right, Josh, we have another big case we'll discuss with you in just a few minutes. So
Sure.
stand by. Thanks.